Elizabeth Elliot says, waiting on God requires the willingness to bear uncertainty, lifting the heart to God about it whenever it intrudes upon one's thoughts. So I wait. Let's get it. Say wait to the boy. Say wait to him. Ain't that easier said than done? Never easy in a season where the stairs have come. On conversations about a spouse, what I'm hearing from will feel like everybody. Hand me in my feelings, I'm feeling melancholy, but still I'm never worried. What's the hurry? Want more than a brief flurry or a girl with a fatty? That's word that Keith Murray had. Yeah, I say a prayer for the bro-hams, not to get inoculated by the programs. The media romanticize romance. If we think it's only that, then we stand no chance. No married folk telling me it's hard isn't what is seen by the television stars. Far from the truth, but my memory is marred. What else I'ma do? But I take it up to God. I'll wait. Woo.
All rise, hands high. You and I relate. Yeah, you feel like there's no time to waste. No, 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 no. Friends keep acting out of place.
Trusting him. He promises to give us everything we need. Not everything we want, though. Yeah. So I'll wait. I ain't even stunting like I'm waiting for the one. See a lot of rushing. Me and Ike having telephone discussions like let's keep our eyes on the sun. Ain't about the chase. When the thrill of that is gonna wait. Tell me what is gonna keep you when she's rattling your cage. Mate, I keep it real, I ain't pushing for a plate. See us, he'll find a wife, it ain't he'll find a babe.
Welcome and thank you for joining us for our third courageous conversation as we discuss all things sex, love, and relationships. First of all, make sure to follow our Crosswalk page and the NWCC Facebook and Instagram page. The handle's going to be at Crosswalk NWCC for Instagram and at NWCC Social for the main NWCC Instagram page. Also, don't forget we have a YouTube channel, so go ahead and hit subscribe. If you have a question today as we're going along through the courageous conversation, be sure to type it in the comments section below. And last, and certainly not least, don't forget to share because we are going to be talking about a lot of useful godly advice that can help people navigate the craziness of the dating world. So let's take a moment, introduce some of our panelists today.
Oh, we'll start in here. Hi. My name is Sean Otukwe, or Essa, and yeah.
Hi, I'm Sophia Otupe, his wife.
I'm Johnny Tyler.
I'm Tanisha Tyler, his wife.
I'm Alvin Kennedy.
And I'm Kristen Kennedy, his wife.
And so just to give a little bit of the background, in our first part of the Courageous Conversation today, we're going to be talking with all couples, if you couldn't tell by all the same last names. We're going to be asking them questions, getting their opinion and personal advice on what they kind of went through in the dating world, and then even a little bit after into marriage. So again, staying on the topic of sex, love, and relationships today. So just getting straight into it, very first question is, are celibacy and virginity still possible in today's times? I don't know if anybody wants to take a moment to mull that over, or if somebody wants to go first and touch a little bit on that.
Hi. They're looking at this direction. So I think the simple answer is yes. You know, is celibacy and virginity still possible in today's times? Absolutely. Because there are people that we know in life, that we do life with, and people that are probably just living life in general that are celibate and or virgins. And so the simple answer is yes. The more difficult answer is, the more difficult kind of way of answering it is like, okay, cool, it is possible. Okay, so how are you going to take those steps to be celibate or to be virgins, especially in our Western context that is very over-sexualized? And so I want to say, yeah, sure, of course, anything is possible. You know, if you want to be a hermit, you can if you want to. If you want to like say, I'm not going to do that for whatever reason, for spiritual reasons, or just you don't want to be taken advantage of, you can say you want to do that too. You know, there are people who are celibate not for spiritual reasons, but because, you know, they don't want to try it for 90 days or whatever if they're reading a book or something like that. Or for some people, you know, they have biblical foundations where the Bible kind of teaches about sexual purity, sexual immorality, so on and so forth, and so they abstain from sex before marriage because of those reasons. And so, yeah, absolutely, you know, it is possible to do that. Anybody else on the panel want to like to take over?
I can continue with that. I think Kristen and I can answer that question very well as well, because we come two very opposite testimonies. I came into our relationship with hurt, baggage, mistakes, which is the area of the sex. And is it on? And so, and Kristen, when I met her, she was a virgin. And so, us trying to make that right, and to, for me, I had to let her know where all my issues were, and to fix it. I like to say that we serve a God that gives us second chances. We serve a God that that gives us fresh starts. We serve a God that is forgiving. And so, for me, I had to come in and some very tough conversations about my issues and to help each other.
Since my husband put me out there, I guess I'll speak for myself and expound. And I just want to reiterate what both Alvin and Esso said. Yes, it is possible. Yes, as you can imagine, it is difficult. And yes, I was a virgin before Alvin and I got married. I was 33 when we got married, for some context. But during our courtship, dating, engagement, Alvin was also celibate. So it did take, we came together, we made that decision very early on in our relationship, and everything that he said, I completely agree with, and we really just sought God. And it's so interesting because in that, seeking God that closely made God a very integral part of our relationship very early on, and that continues to today. So I'd like to say that yes, it is possible, and I also think that it is very, very important to try to do so for the longevity of the sort of courtship and then on into marriage as well.
We went 17 months without sex.
Okay, well, I'll continue on with that. I do believe that celibacy and virginity can still be possible today, but I also think it is based on what you value. If you value it, you're more likely to keep yourself in that position, and also about the company that you keep around you as well. If you set yourself around people that are like-minded like you and want to do those things, then you're more likely to succeed and not engage in those type of things. But if you have individuals who are not like-minded and not thinking that way and trying to rile you up and encourage you, and you put yourself in those positions where you will slip up, you will fall, then you're more likely to not succeed in that. But I do think it is very important and something that is valued still in some of our younger adults today that aren't married and that are single.
So just kind of as a follow-up side question on that, kind of a little off the script, do you feel like your opinion on that changed after you got married? does it make it easier to hold that? Does that make sense? Like, do you feel that maybe when, or on what any of you guys said, did your outlook on that change after you got married?
I will feel that one because, yes, mine did very much. I wasn't a virgin when I got married. We didn't wait until we were married. So I will say it was a lack of understanding for me. So there was a lack of commitment because I didn't have a full understanding of what I was doing and the permanent thing that I was doing for that small time, if that makes sense. So for me now, I have a better understanding of what sin does to you, what sex does to you. I understand more. My relationship has evolved, and the more information that I've had, I'm basically making a more informed decision. I didn't have that information before. I came from a school of thought of don't come home with a baby. It wasn't you have value, you have worth, this is God's intention for you. It was just don't have a baby. And so when you're following that train of thought, it's not so much about valuing your body. It's not so much about turning away from sin and living with intention. It's just don't have a baby. So now that I understand all of what sex does and the attachments you make and things of that nature, my opinion has most definitely changed. But I have another chance to teach my children something different and to help them understand why we're just saying it. Because again, I came from a school of just don't do it. God said don't do it, you don't do it. And like PK says, we're a why generation, and I didn't have a why, I didn't understand, so it didn't make it wasn't in my heart to commit to do that. And I think it has to start there. It has to start with the desire to do so. Just like any other goal you have in life. If I goal to lose weight, or if I goal to read a book, if I goal to learn how to cook something, that starts with a commitment. And I think that's what, for me, I was lacking because I didn't have an understanding or information.
Yeah, I would agree with what Tanisha said. I think even though I was a virgin when I got married, it's still different. Like, hindsight changes the weight of how you think of that particular thing. And so even though I had like the knowledge, I was taught that. My mum was still like, don't bring a baby to the house. I was like, okay, mum. But after you've kind of crossed that thing of now you're married and you're looking back, and then you're now looking at the younger people or single people, they don't have to be younger than you, but then you're like, yeah, I completely understand this thing from a different like point of view now that I'm in this. And it's almost like it's not fair that we can sit here and be like, of course it's possible to be a virgin today. Like, it's not fair because we've passed that now. But at the same time, it's almost like, don't let someone else have made the mistake for you instead of you making the mistake for yourself. Like, what's the point? It's like you're wasting someone else's experience in order for you to kind of go through the thing that the Lord has like written, that he is saying that it doesn't help, it doesn't work. So yeah, I really agree with what everyone's already said.
That's good. Thank you guys for sharing that. So one of the next questions is what advice would you give to those who are dating right now and those who have to deal with the stigma of like no one will marry you if they don't get to try it first? It's kind of an ugly stigma, but it is out there.
I like to go first. It sounds more like.
Go ahead, brother, speak.
Yeah, there we go. It sounds like the old adage where it goes, test drive a car before you buy it, and that's a very bad analogy when it comes to dating. Yes, we do need relationships. We need to be around people just to see who we are and see how we act. So a string of relationships, yes, but emotionally and physically, no, because it can cause a lot of different things. If you're coming into a new relationship, it can cloud you. If you just came from this hurt, you need time away from that, time to kind of identify yourself, to strengthen your relationship with Jesus. And so, yeah, we need relationships, but emotionally and physically, we need to stay away.
I want to add in that and say that, like, marriage is more than sex. Like, so much more. Like the 365 days that you live in a year, marriage is way more than just that moment. And let's say you have sex every night, right? Let's say you're doing it every night. It's killing it. You're killing it. You know what I'm saying? You're doing your thing. You know what I'm saying? Okay, you have like 3 hours, amazing. Then you've got 21. I know. They're looking at me like, baby.
That's not real.
But you got 21 hours left of the day that you have to live with that person and know that person in ways that are beyond just the intimacy of sex, where you have to know that person emotionally, where you have to deal with that person on a day-to-day basis, deal with their relationships, and so on and so forth. So the person who's like, yo, I want to try it before I buy. I want to try having sex with you before I see if we're compatible for marriage. Well, in actuality, you're trying 3% of what marriage actually is. Maybe. I might, they might be 50, amen. Still you have another 50% to add on, where other activities, child raising, how you guys gonna how you guys gonna parent your child, how you guys gonna deal with finances, how you guys gonna deal with homes and so on and so forth. Those are the type of things you ought to be looking at if you're like, yo, I wanna see where we are and how you deal with certain things before we get married, as opposed to like, yo, we gotta have sex before. I'm like, bro, like, when you're 65, well, let me not say that because there is some, anyway, when you're 75 and you're living life, you may not be actively having sex as much as you were when you were 25, 30. So what are some of the things that are gonna keep you then? You know what I mean? So you kind of have to be looking at sex from a realistic perspective too. I think a lot of people, watch Hollywood movies, they watch Game of Thrones, they watch this and that, and they think sex is that. And that is how it's done all the time. We're moving like that every day. We see each other at the doorway. When in actuality, there's a whole bunch of things that need to happen in life. And so, we just shouldn't have our minds clouded and think, oh, I can't marry you if I don't have sex with you. Boy, you shouldn't marry that person if they don't know how to deal with their parents properly, if they don't know how to do relationships right, so on and so forth. So that's what I would say to that.
I just want to kind of touch on the stigma part of it, because I think from a very young age, depending on where your influences are coming from, there is a stigma of, at a certain point, you're going to have to give it up, or, for women, or he's going to leave you. And then for the man, it's like, you a punk if you don't do it at a certain time. So there is this pressure to accomplish this so-called goal at a certain point in your life, or you're going to be looked at it a certain way. And I think that is the reality that's really hard to deal with when we talk about, as Christians, when we say things. I think a lot of times we make these bold statements like, you should wait until marriage, and you should be a virgin, and don't care about what people say. In reality, you are struggling to feel as pretty as the other girls, or to feel as liked as the other girls, because they're giving it up and you're not, type of thing. And so I think that stigma is, you really just have to have people around you that are the right people. So sometimes I think that will help, so that you don't feel that that is a bad thing. Because I think, again, at my generation and my time, it was looked at as, if you're a certain age, what's wrong with you? Why haven't you done it yet? So I think that shifts your mindset in the way that I'm not doing something that I'm supposed to be doing, and you're really not supposed to be doing it. You don't have the maturity to understand it. There's so many reasons why you shouldn't. But there's this, like you said, the stigma. So I think having the right people around you that will tell you, no, this is the right thing to be doing. What they're saying is the wrong thing.
Let me just briefly add that also, if we're talking about being in the body, like Christians saying to another Christian sister, I'm not gonna, I don't want to marry you until I have sex with you. A Christian brother saying to a Christian sister, I'm not having sex with you until I want to have sex with you before we get married. That's the wildest thing ever, because that means that you don't understand biblical relationships. At the end of the day, that girl is your sister. That's how you have to look at her. She is your sister. He is your brother. I'm not even just going to say it's just guys that say it, because women probably say it too, right? So in that role, you are brother and sister. So imagine someone just coming to your blood, your biological sibling, and saying, yeah, I like you, but until you give it to me, I'm not going to marry you. You're going to be thinking, that's crazy. Forget that guy, forget that girl. You would be so like confused as to why they would, well, you may not be if you think that way, but generally speaking, we wouldn't have it for our biological siblings, right? But when we're in the body, it's like we don't view each other in the way that scripture tells us to view each other, which is why I can go and say to you, if you don't want to have sex before you get married, then do you know what I mean? Like, that's why we can talk like that, because we don't really live out what scripture tells us. And not that it's easy, but that we must like fight to do it, if that makes sense. I must value you as someone that is God's child and we're all part of the same family that much that I'm gonna like push through in this struggle of sexual desire because of that, if that makes sense.
I just wanted to piggyback off of what Sophia said. I think also with that question, is there a stigma? I think part of the struggle that I had, especially in college, when I would sort of express this to my friends, would be like, well, how do you know what you like if you don't try it first? And for me, it was a thing where I had to sort of tell myself, well, if God designed it so that I was supposed to wait, then I also have to trust God that if I seek him for the person that he has for me, then that whole complete person is going to be what I need, even sexually. And so while it took a lot of faith to do that, I wanted to honor, that helped me to be like, no, I'm not going to jump the gun. No, I'm going to fight that good fight. And so I think that was a mindset to sort of like battle in my mind that sort of like, how will I know what I like? Or what if they don't want to marry me? But just trusting God that if he designed it this way, then he'll work it out.
And real quick, I'm just going to make it real brief. Also, in that same lane, if like God wants us to just have that one person, if this is the only person I've been with, how do I know that's not what I like? How do I know what's different? I have nothing else to judge it off of and base it off of. That's why I think he makes it and designs it that way. Because then once you do start having multiple partners, then you're going to start thinking back to some of those other things and be like, well, it wasn't like how such and such did this, or I like it because I know such and such did this to me this way. And then there's also another adage that says, if you're looking at it that way, people will say, why buy the cow if you can get the milk for free? So if I know that I can just keep doing this, why would I still marry you anyway? That shouldn't be the basis of why I'm marrying you, like S.O. said, just off of sex, something that's just 3% of a relationship. If you're basing it just solely off of sex and saying, I will or will not marry you, then you're going into the relationship in the wrong reasons to start off with.
All right, thank you. I know you got a lot, I think all of you guys touched on this already, but just as a general, who were you a virgin and before you got married? And if you weren't, do you feel it put unintentional pressure on the marriages that you're in now?
We were virgin light. Is what I would
elaborate,
you have to
please.
Explain virgin light.
Well, so I was literally just thinking about this right now, right? So I think sometimes, so yes, we were virgins, but we were virgin light in that to me, to Jesus, I think like sexual relation is beyond just penetration. This is what I mean. Jesus says, you've heard it said, right, that if you commit adultery with someone, blah, 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 but I say to you, if you look upon a woman with lust, you've committed adultery with her. So he takes adultery from just, hey, you're going to go sleep with someone who's not your spouse, to even if you think about a thing, if you think about a woman or a man in a way, you're committing sexual adultery. So I maybe according to Jesus, none of us are virgins in that sense, right? In a sense of like, I'm even if my thought life is impure, then to God, I'm like how he's viewing me is different to how I'm viewing sex. And so I would say Sophia and I, yes, we were virgins. We didn't have sex before we got married. But the things that we did, I know that I always go back and also look like, man, looking back, it's like, I wish we never even touched each other. I wish we never kissed one another, so on and so forth. Because I believe it would have just made in that moment when we first did it, would have made it more. I would have loved to kiss you before I got married. Love kissing you before I got married. But just get married. Mwah, that would have been amazing. I wish we would have done that too. So I think to some extent, why are you laughing? Why are you giggling? Why are you giggling? I think to a certain extent, yeah, sure, we were virgins, but we were light in that sense. I mean, we want the purest. Yeah, we want the purest. You know what I'm saying? And God's desire for us is, Paul says, this is the will of God for your life, that your sanctification, that you abstain from sexual immorality. Sexual immorality goes beyond just having penetrative sex. It's, you know what I'm saying? So we limit it to that, but it's way beyond that biblically.
It's my turn. Yeah. Ain't no light over here. It wasn't no light. It wasn't no, we were not virgins before we got married. I don't think that it put pressure on the relationship. I think we had a very I know we had a very worldly view of relationships. Even though we were Christians, our thought processes came from the world. You date, you have sex, you maybe spend a couple of years with that person. Sometimes you live together, whatever it is, and then maybe you get married. If not, then you move on. So I wouldn't say it necessarily put pressure on the relationship, but it was definitely a very skewed and wrong view that we had.
Yeah, I would like to add to that. I wasn't and she was, and so when we came into it, I even remember telling her I was scared I was going to cheat. I was going to step out because of my past and where I came from, and me going without sex. How can I handle that? No one ever told me the benefits of why not having sex. All I heard was don't have sex. But when I grew up and watching movies, watching shows, all I saw was sex and how it led to sex. But people are telling me something different, but never the benefit. And just within our months of not having sex, we were able to prove to each other that we can make decisions without emotions. I was able to heal in a way that she can give me compassion because she knew what I was going through, and at the same time I knew what she was going through. And then we can value each other. We proved to each other that I did value you. I just didn't need the sex to show you that I value you.
That's beautiful, Alvin.
That is very beautiful.
You're just a good example, sir.
All right. Give me a tissue, dog.
So I guess that's to say, with the unintentional pressure part, I'm trying to think. Very early on, like I said, I told Alvin, this is what we not finna do. And so I don't know that I felt pressure. I probably should have felt pressure. I probably should have felt like, man, I really like this person. If I tell him we're not gonna have sex, what if he leaves me? But I didn't feel that. Part of it was probably me being very naive that that could actually happen. The other part of it, I think, is because when we had that when I told him that, I backed it up with, this is why, and let's talk about and understand why this is probably the best way for us to move forward. And so then once we both got on the same page with that, it eliminated the pressure, I think.
So definitely a lot of reoccurring themes here. It sounds like you need a good circle of people. You need support. You can't go through it alone, and faith. And being able, like at the end of the day, marriage is so much more than what the world makes it out to be. What if a couple is committed, they're living together, and not having sex? How do we feel about that?
How they doing that? Where do you do that at?
So we actually did do that.
Because we were living together, and then we started counseling, and PK was like, y'all need to break it up.
Yeah.
Go sleep on the couch. I mean, he was on the couch for a little while, but
oh, this is juicy. So we, so at the time when Alvin and I got engaged, he wasn't living in San Antonio at the time. He was living in San Marcos. And in order financially for us to not be in two different places, we sought out this path of, all right, let's live together. I was in school. I had an apartment in the medical center. And we were 2 months engaged at that point when he then moved in with me and we started living together. We did not have sex at that time. I will emphasize, sort of like what SO was saying, we were celibacy light at that point. which is a whole nother thing. But it's different for everybody. For us, it worked out. It was very difficult, but I think financially, it really helped us. It also made us get real close without getting real close, which I think was good for our marriage. And there are some mistakes that we made and some things that we learned from. So I think everybody is different. I wouldn't necessarily be like, yeah, definitely live together and don't have sex. It's not super realistic in this day and age, especially if you know yourself. We knew ourselves. We did not make that decision lightly. We fasted and prayed about 3 weeks for that. And not to say that God was like, yeah, go ahead and do that. I think every day that we were in it, we made a commitment to each other and to God to try to make it as godly as possible.
All right. I mean, really, it's important to hear your guys' perspective since you are already married. Any more advice that you could give to our either people who are coupling and dating right now or who are singles and kind of, just dating here and there? Advice on people who are waiting until marriage to have sex?
I think I would say it's worth it. Anything worth having is worth working towards. So you may feel discouraged. You may feel like this is unrealistic. You may feel like I'm not around anybody who's really doing this. At the end of the day, as a person who didn't wait and who regrets that decision, it is worth it. The fight is worth it. The effort that you put in on a daily basis, just like our relationship with Christ in general, right? It's not always easy. He doesn't promise that every day is going to be perfect and awesome, but that relationship, that connection, being with him is worth it. And so what I would say is when you're feeling like it's unrealistic, when you feel like you're not going to get a man or women don't want this or whatever, it is worth it in the end. And if nothing else, the three, relationships that you see here are proof that, you can live a godly life and get what you're trying to get in that way. So I just would say it is worth it.
I would say that, honestly, I know people have said this about being in a community of people, but I really believe that being in the community of people that have the same clear biblical mindset and being in the word and just in your single life, just getting in the trenches with God, it sounds like a really blah way to say it. But I say that to say, at a period of time that we had a break, I was just like, do you know what, Lord? It's just me and you, At the end of the day, I would love to be married to this person. I would love all of these things. But it has to be me and you, because otherwise you get to a place where you're idolizing, your desire for something overwhelms you, and now that drives you, that's what's driving you. So now if I see a nice guy or a nice girl, the first thing I'm thinking is, oh, are they going to be my partner? Oh, okay, how long are we going to wait before we have sex? That becomes I don't know, I don't feel like it makes the process the way that the Lord would intend for it to be. And of course, in the Bible, we see marriage done in so many different ways. So I'm not saying that there's a blueprint. Thankfully, we have Pastor Keith, explaining, godly principles on how to date. But I honestly just think that in this time of being single, use it wisely, travel, do stuff that you like to do. And I really wish that I started doing that earlier, because I feel like when I started doing it, it was almost too late, and then I had to start saving for a wedding, and I was like, oh man, this want to go away. Honestly, when you're being married is a wonderful thing, and the Lord knows why he made the institution and why he wanted us to reflect his covenant with us in this way. But being single I don't have to ask anyone if where I want to spend my money on, where I want to go, who I want to go with. I just get up and I go about my business. I pray to the Lord in my quiet time. There ain't no kids screaming. Guys, honestly, this is good, but
Don't knock
good.
it.
Yeah,
Don't knock
like
the
don't
single
like
life.
don't fall into the trap of like, oh, if I'm just married, it's gonna be great if you find the right partner. If you do what you need to do while you're single, then marriage is gonna be like a fight for continual greatness. Not like it's great because it's just great. Like there's still work. So I'll just say, yeah, commit yourself to the Lord. Like truly commit yourself to the Lord. Be with people that are gonna be in the same mindset as you, and yeah, pray, man. Pray, because some days it's rough.
Yeah, and let me just add to that, just that pressure of marriage, sex, so on and so forth. The person that we follow, namely Jesus, was single, wasn't married, didn't have sex, fully man, fully God. People would be sleeping on the fact that he was fully man, though. So, I don't have to spell that out to you. So I say that to say that if he was single, content in his singleness, Paul actually says it's better to be single than to be married. Actually, he says that in the Bible. It's better, because, as Sophia was saying, you can just focus on the Lord. You don't have to focus on, as he would describe it, worldly things. Imagine that, like, being married is like, that's weird. And even when we get to heaven, when we're in the new heaven, new earth, there's no marriage. There's no marriage. This is going to be my sister.
I'm still a sister now.
Sure, but this is she's going to be my actual sister when I get to heaven. And so we have to, I think sometimes we just we're looking so much at the here and now, which I understand, we're humans, but we should start thinking eternally, like having an eternal perspective. It's like when all this is said and done, when everything is destroyed and rebuilt and God gives you a new body, you can walk through walls, maybe, you're going to be single. Imagine that we're all going to be here, we're married now, but we're going to be single, no sex, and we're going to be happy, we're going to be content. Which I don't know what that looks like. Lord, help me. But I'm sure that he will when it's time, you know what I mean?
I'm so sorry, but I need to ask him a question. But how does me
You're asking me a question?
Yeah, I'm asking you a
Oh.
question because I'm thinking, okay, I understand what you're saying. My head understands it. That this is because everyone has to have eternity as our perspective, right? All of us. But in this world, I think you need to give me more. Like, I know it sounds like I need something else. I need something
It sounds very
tangible.
idealistic, right? So that's where we should be. Sure, absolutely. How do I tell myself who he's also built us to have relationships and to desire that, right? So if I have that strong desire to have that connection with someone, to have someone next to me, to have that commitment, how do I look past that in reality? Because that is what I'm feeling. I
Sure,
get
no,
that.
I'm with you. So I think that sometimes what we do, and maybe it came across like, I was separating the two, because there is a way you can live in the here and now and still look forward, right? So like what Paul would say, we are already but not yet, right? So we are already here and now, valuing relationships. And it doesn't mean that relationships won't continue on in the new heavens and the new earth. It'll be a different shape, it'll be a different look, right? In fact, it actually would be, I believe, be more deeper than just, hey, a sexual relationship, so on and so forth. So we would actually be able to, because there'll be no sin between us. There'll be no reason for us to be like, yo, you did me wrong yesterday. You didn't do me wrong yesterday. I love you. You were great. Just making sure, online. But like those things won't be there. Those barriers, those things that we put up will no longer exist. And so our relationships actually will be a lot deeper in the new heaven and new earth than they are now. So we won't lose that relational desire that we have. In fact, because God has created us like that. In fact, he exists in relationship, right? Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. He's the reason why we're able to have relationship, marriage, friendship, so on and so forth. So when we get to the new heaven, when we get to the new earth, we're still going to be emulating that, just not in a marital context. Does that make sense?
Do you feel like it's easier for you to say that, though, because you have your partner here now? Do you know what I'm saying? Do you feel like you would feel different if you were a single person and you didn't have if you didn't have that connection, you didn't have that, would you feel like you could I guess my thing is always, how do we make it real for people? How do I make it plain? How do I tell you how to get over those feelings, if
Yeah,
you will,
how'd you
because
live
you
it
are with
out?
her, you have that, and you can say, well, we'll have a deeper connection in heaven. But what if I'm sitting here lonely right now on this earth? And how do I get, how do I get over that feeling of my loneliness now, my desire to have someone now, not even taking out the sex part, just I desire to have that.
So going back, sorry, I want to say something. Going back to what Sophia was saying, when we broke up, she kind of said it like, took a break, but we broke up. And we broke up, and we were idolizing each other in that moment, like, oh man, if I don't get married to her, blah, 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 she doesn't get married to me, so on and so forth. She had to come to a point where it's like, yo, God, it's just me and you. And so maybe that person or those people need to come to that perspective where God is just me and you. And it's not, I don't think I'm saying it from a perspective of because I'm in this situation. I think looking through scripture and the way I'm living, like I can still have relationship with people. Like if I wasn't married to Sophia, I could still have relationship, deeper relationship, deeper connection. We have people who are single and that we know that have deeper relationships, deeper connections with their siblings, with their parents, with their friends around them, that relationships can still be valued outside of a marital context. And so for that person who is kind of looking for a deeper relationship, I would say, you already probably have relationships that you can deepen, that you can strengthen outside of a marital relationship.
All right.
Does that help you guys?
It does. Thank you, sir.
very
Thank
Just
you.
making sure. Alvin, you
Your
want to
time.
add on to
So
it?
that time, Ashley?
If you want to touch
Yes,
briefly on that.
I would like to continue with what Sophia said, which in your singleness and how important it is to identify and discover yourself I've always said, an unhappy single person is an unhappy married person. They haven't had time to really identify. You get in marriage and you get exposed. You expose all your weaknesses and your strengths. And those weaknesses really magnify when you haven't really you don't even know yourself. You haven't identified to yourself. And so that's why I say it's so important to be in content with Jesus, yourself and Jesus, and get in that relationship, because then your confidence with yourself when you're single is a little bit different. Like, I really don't need you, but we can really, when we do get together, we can be powerful.
There's a way to desire marriage and still be content in your singleness, right? There's a way, like, sure, it sounds like, that don't make no sense, but people are doing it. People are doing it. So there is a way to do that, to be like, I desire to be married, but I'm not going to make marriage or sex an idol, which is one of the things that we've been kind of talking about here. An idol is something that you put above God, right? So if anything that goes above God, that's an idol. If you're like, I can't live without, that's potentially an idol that you've created in your heart and in your mind. And so an idol is not a golden calf that we bow down and say, oh, kumbaya, whatever it is, you know what I mean? So, things of that weapon.
Well, good. I'm glad we really got to go deep on that question. And just as a reminder, for those of you who are watching online with us, if you have any questions, anything that they've talked about so far that you want them to expound upon or elaborate on, please type them in the comments below. Moving on to the next question, how would you know if you love another person and should consider them as a potential partner?
That question's
Like, how would you know if they're the one? Is that what that's kind of
I think
supposed to be?
Yes, I think that's what that question means. And I know it's going to be different for everyone, but if you have any key factors, like kind of when you knew.
I think the way that I knew was probably not the right way, because I was off of God's path for my life. We've known each other since I was 12 and he was 14. And I always say God just was trying to connect us in so many ways. Our brother and sister had met each other at like a fashion show separately from us. And then our mothers were attending New Creation. So separate things that our families were coming together in that way. Our brother and sister ended up like being together. They're married.
We got married first.
We did. And so I always say God was connecting us. So we were friends / liked each other / like, I don't know, always trying to be in each other's presence or whatever when we were teenagers, but we were never together. And so it wasn't until I think 10 years later that we actually got together. And I would say I probably hindered that more than my man here, because he was chasing you, girl. And and so for me, how I knew the previous relationship that I was in was really bad and just not what you should be in a lot of different ways. And we started coming to Now Word, I think a year after PK had started the church, and he started preaching about worth. And I was like, what you mean? Like me? I'm worth something? These are things I had literally never heard. And so my mindset started changing about things, and I'm looking at this relationship. I'm like, this is a mess. What am I doing? And so coming out of that relationship, we had already told each other, this is what we wanted. We wanted to be with each other. And financially speaking, I had to wait until my lease was up to get out of that situation. Okay. And so we waited that out. And then once we were together, I was like, oh, well, this is what it's supposed to be like. So I think my previous experience that I probably should have never went through really helped me to understand, like, this is how easy it should feel. This is how comfortable. This person has been here this whole time, dummy. What you been doing? And so it was very quick from there, automatic from there. It was like, this is it. There's nothing else. So for me, it was my previous experience of, this is this what you want the rest of your life to be? Absolutely not. Hearing PK say, like, you're worthy. This is, the path you should be on and things of that nature. And I'm really listening. I'm like, well, I'm not doing any of that stuff. This doesn't make any sense. This is why there's just turmoil constantly and foolishness going on constantly. And then once I was done with that and got to this, it was like, oh, okay, this is it. This makes complete sense. Like, I understand what they say when you say, like, this is the one. So I think that was my experience anyway.
I'm very afraid that I don't know. I'm going to just say it. So I want to say that what SO had said about, I think I did deep down desire marriage, but I was very, very, very content in my singleness. I was in school. I was older. I kind of had accepted that, God, if you don't want this for me, that's okay. There's so many things on my plate that you do want me to do that, my life is for you, so I'm going to do that. So when I met Alvin, that desire wasn't, and as women, we do this. I do this with other things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need it right now. Like, this is him. I think that's the one, like, after talking for like 1 second. So I didn't do that because I think I was content. But what I did do was every day that we continued to talk about a possible future, I ran that by God. God, if this is not of you, make it very plain to me, please. I'm sincerely pursuing this relationship to glorify you. So if it does not do that, please let me know. So I'm constantly praying. I'm constantly measuring our relationship up against the things that we know, the word that we knew, the sermons, the devotionals, everything that we were doing. We were very intentional about keeping God in the middle. And so then God never really said, nah, that's not what I want. And so then we got to the altar, and I said one more quick prayer, and I was like, God, all right, we're finna do it. And so, and now looking back, I could see all the ways that God was sort of had his hand over us and was reassuring us that, no, this is, and I won't say that it was easy, but I will say that even in the difficult times that we worked through and communicated with each other, we had a peace. We had a peace that we're gonna get through this together with God. And so I think that's how I knew. I think at every day I was reaffirming the fact that I was doing life with this person in this way, on this path that led us to that altar to where we are now. So I think for me, it was just little by little, I just got a reconfirmation that this is the person I'm supposed to do this kind of life with. I don't think I had the aha, like, oh my gosh. I think it was just little by little, but that's actually how I operate and how God speaks to me. Like, it's little things that sort of add up and reassure me each day.
And I think that's good too, that you guys have had different, obviously I think we had different things, but everybody here has a different, this is the one for sure. We're gradually working towards that. Yeah, we're gradually working. No? Sure. Yeah, we're gradually working towards that. And I think, just to say something is that the Bible is like that too when it comes to relationships and marriage. There is no one size fits all in the scriptures. In the scriptures you see arranged marriage. In the scriptures you see a woman going to be on the field and like picking some stuff, and then a man comes and says, hey, what's up? Then in the scriptures you see a harlot, God telling someone, a prophet, to marry a harlot. It's like, so there is no one size fits. So I think what the Bible teaches is wisdom on how you pick a spouse or how you consider somebody to be married. And so if you're looking for like, this is how you know because they will do this, 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 and this. Well, unfortunately, you're not going to find that, not from here, not in the Bible either. What you're going to find from here are like your biblical principles. These are some of the things that the Bible says you should be looking for in a spouse. Are they hitting those marks? Are they hitting those targets? More than that, am I hitting those marks? Am I hitting those targets? And then let the Lord do what his Lord's going to do. Boom. You know, so if you're looking for like, the sky opened and then God spoke to me and said, Sophia is your wife.
I mean,
that could happen. No, of course, because guess what? Also in the Bible, people prayed and said, yo, Lord, if that's the person, let them come and be at a well at this time with a specific. So it could be that your experience could be very specific, and it also could be, hey, I was just walking in the park, Alvin bumped me, and then we started talking, and then the Lord brought it together. I don't know what happened, but you know what I mean.
Well, we are nearing towards the end of our time, and we do, I mean, I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone online as well, but I really appreciate you guys taking the time to sit and talk with the young adults who are watching today. Don't really have any time for any last-minute wrap-ups, but I'm sure if there's any young adults in the church who have any questions, they can come to you guys in person. Sure. On Sunday, ask any more questions that they have. That's going to wrap it up for our couple portion, our session 1. Don't go anywhere, though. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back, and we're going to have a singles part where we'll be discussing, asking more questions with Pastor Keith. So get all of your questions ready, and we'll see you guys soon.
In this passage of Scripture, we can see certain things about how we are to come together as a man and a woman. All right? You got me? Yeah. So in here, we have to wonder, and we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about really, some of us kind of looked up on our spouses. Because nobody sat us down and told us, this is how you get the right one. Because most people don't have the right one, so they can't tell you how to get the right one. Right? I mean, right? Nobody sat you down and gave you dating. Your parents don't sit, your parents don't sit you down and talk about intimacy. They don't sit you down and talk about, you gonna date. Oh, you got a boyfriend. That's all they say. You got a boyfriend, girl. Oh, good. Watch yourself. I mean, what kind of education is that? But that's what they do, right? Right? I mean, nobody really sits you down. And this most dangerous thing, this most harmful thing that can happen to you is to get in something like a relationship and it don't work. Amen. It seems like it would be everybody be more alert that says, oh my God, you know, right? But maybe some of you, but I bet very few of you really got sat down and talked to thoroughly about how to date. Understand that. A man is awakened. Right. That's it. That's it. Any man who's married a long time, they were awakened by that one woman. That's right. Amen. You just gotta know it. It comes from anywhere. You're just in a club one day and you see somebody go, that's it. That's it. Right. He's awakened. But what does it mean a woman approves of a man? A woman is not awakened by a man. When a man is awakened toward her, she begins now to approve of him. All right. That means he has to earn. Listen, dating has become today the primary path we use to couple for marriage in the American culture. I call this the dating game. All right, we have the dating game going on here. All right, here it is. We date a pool of people. Out of this pool, we choose the one who we feel is most compatible with our self-interest. We fall in love with them and commit to a monogamous and sexual relationship that we hope will be long-term and will eventually end in marriage. Isn't that right? That's what we do in the dating game. Listen, the major problem with playing the dating game is this. How many times do you lose before you win? What did your dating game losses cost you? Yeah. Have we always been through that? Yeah. Dang, he messed over me. That's a dating game loss. But you're gonna try again. I call that in the book rehab dating. You're under rehab. Dating someone, you ask them, what are your guiding values of your life? What's your beliefs and behavior? Because beliefs and behavior go together. Listen, if a person is mishandling their way they live, they will also mishandle you in a dating relationship.
Hello and welcome back for part 2 of our Courageous Conversations, Sex, Love, and Relationships. Thank you guys for joining us. We have some singles here that are part of Now Word Covenant Church. We're gonna do a little bit of a conversation with them as well as with Pastor Keith. So if you guys want to take a few moments to introduce yourselves as well.
Okay, I'm Jeremy Simpson.
I'm Pastor Keith.
I'm Lawrence Fields.
And I'm Sean Patrice Williams.
Awesome. Thank you guys again so much for being here today, just like our couples were in the last session. So just to start off again by saying, be sure to share this with everyone. Lots of good stuff, lots of good conversation going on here. You never know who's going to need to hear what's being talked about today. Be sure to follow our Crosswalk page. The handle for the Instagram is going to be at CrosswalkNWCC. And for the main Now Word page, it's going to be at NWCC Social. Don't forget, we also have a YouTube channel, so be sure to hit subscribe. So, how are you guys doing today? Hope you're all doing well. Don't forget to, if you have any questions, post it in the comment section. We'll try to address those as soon as possible. Anything on your mind before we get started and get into this?
No, I believe we're ready to get started.
All right, amen. Well, let's jump into the first question. Do you guys believe that a woman should initiate a relationship?
I guess I can speak for men on this particular subject. Still kind of have the old school mentality. I know it should be the mentality in general, but where men do the chasing, they do the pursuance. And initiating, I mean, it's if we're leaving our mother and father to pursue a woman, we should be the one to initiate said relationship, and that's kind of what I perceive that as.
I feel like as a woman, if we initiate the relationship, then there's an expectation that we're supposed to continue to chase after that man within the relationship. So it kind of sets you up for failure if you're looking for a man to chase you, which should be the thing that you're looking for anyways.
I feel like as a man, we should initiate the relationship as well, but I also think that there should be a little bit of give and take on both ends. You know, the women should show that they're into the man as well, and it shouldn't just be the man chasing them the whole time.
Amen. Pastor, did you have anything that you wanted to share on that?
I think everyone said, in a biblical sense, a man should, as Patrice said, pursue the relationship, because ultimately in the relationship, the man is going to be, depends on where it ends, the head. So the Bible says a man leaves to cleave. That means he's the pursuer. Then he's the most responsible. And as Jeremy said now, but as he's pursuing, the woman makes sure she is responding right to him. Because if she don't respond right to his pursuit, he will stop. So again, it is biblically correct for a man to pursue the woman, because he will become the head of the covenant if they ultimately get married. But it's right for the woman to then study the man to know how to respond in his pursuit, to keep him pursuing.
All right. Now, I did have a question that came to my mind as the last panel was going on. And I don't know if you guys want to touch on this as well, but I feel that sex is one of the most talked about sins in the church. It's just one of the most obvious, things that we can see and point
It's
to.
talked about a lot because it's going on a lot.
Right. Well, yes, it's
In the church,
but, right.
all right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, definitely.
Oh, yeah,
not,
right, okay.
Not saying it shouldn't be
No, I'm
talked
teasing
about,
you,
right?
I'm teasing.
But it's almost like a stigma, I would say, for young adults because they kept talking about having a good circle and, reaching out to people and surrounding yourself with good people. But how do you overcome reaching out to people, because it's almost like it's a sin, so everybody wants to hide it, right? So how do you overcome that stigma of guilt and I need to reach out to other people, but how do I do that without feeling like, ashamed or...
I guess for me, when I was trying to transition from walking outside of God's will to walking in God's will, I reached out to people that I knew their walk. I knew that they had come from something similar to mine, so they were able to speak to me directly and not pacify me with words that I want to hear, like, it's okay, God's got it, he knows your heart. He won't judge you, and it's like, I understand all of this, but I needed someone to correct me, someone that was able to say, hey, let me rebuke that spirit that you're walking in right now, and able to just give me that love. So I hope I answered what you were speaking to.
That was wonderful.
I would also piggyback off of that initial conversation being the one that's the scariest part. And I think the fact that we have things and people that are willing to be open so that you can feel comfortable, and having the real talks that Pastor Keith has, the real talks that we had from, like you said, the married couples, that openness allows people to see I can be myself. I can shed that shame that I may have before I can approach or reach out. And I believe that is one of the things that makes it a lot easier to do so, but it is still a difficult portion of it.
And I feel like it's all about your surroundings as well, so who you reach out to. So if you reach out to people that aren't Christians, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult to talk to them and get them to understand. But if you reach out to people who are of the same mindset, then you could talk to them, you could have that conversation. It might be a little bit more comfortable. You could talk to them about the frustrations of not being able to be involved in maybe some of the intimate ways that are the intimate things that we want to be involved in as Christians. So, I think it's who you talk to, and I think that's a big part of it.
I agree. I actually wanted to say something else. You brought up a good point. It's who you talk to. I know initially I had, like I said, I was trying to transition out of walking out of God's will into walking into God's will. I tried talking to friends that did not believe. They had a Christ feel somewhat wannabe. It was kind of like, oh, I'm a Christian, yes. Like a Facebook Christian, like, yeah, I'm a Christian right on the line and that's it. So I tried to go to them and ask them any questions, and it was kind of like, girl, just go get it. Go do what you need to do. We all have those feelings. So it held me out more than it pushed me towards Christ. So I did learn very quickly, okay, I'm talking to the wrong person. So, and I also was careful and redefined what a friend was and who people in my space were. Who are my associates? Who are my friends? And who can I actually talk to?
All right, thank you. And it looks like we did have a question that came in online. Do you think your family life affects how you date or how you look for a date?
I believe so, in certain ways, just because, a lot of us, we think about our family when we're choosing who we date, especially when it comes to like things like interracial dating and stuff like that. Sometimes people's families can play a big part in that, who we bring home, how our family might think. So I think it does play a part, but I think we shouldn't let it play a part.
I think a good part of that too would be the people that have either suffered some traumas, whether it be something that they experienced or they saw in their home. So they either try to stray away from what they've seen, or all they know is what they've experienced and what they've been a part of. So it's probably something that all you know is what you know for the most part until you get to a certain age, you start to experience life. You ask the right questions. And so just kind of like what PK touched on, you rarely get in the household that sit down talk. And so if you haven't had that, you're just going flippantly upon, with dating lives and things of that nature.
I believe so. The family life does affect how I looked at dating. Okay, so I'm about to put a little bit out there. I'm gonna be real with y'all. My mother was the breadwinner, and my father stayed home, so he was the stay-at-home parent. I don't know if that was necessarily choice, but I know he had some physical ailments, so he was trying to take care of himself. But that's besides the point. I saw the woman working and the man not working. So when I started dating, it didn't matter if the man had a job or if he didn't provide, because I said, well, I'll do it. He doesn't have to. I can go get it myself. So it really did affect how I looked at dating and my approach in dating, because I was like, oh, he doesn't have a job. No worries. I got it. I'll pay for us, boo. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being real. We love realness here. Now, I know you guys may also have some questions that you wanted to ask. It's an open discussion with Pastor Keith. I don't know if anybody wanted to start with their first question.
Yeah, I'll start off. So I have a question because, as Christians, I know we're not supposed to get too intimate and we're not supposed to kiss. We're not even supposed to kiss before marriage. I would just like to know, what are the appropriate levels of intimacy, and, how do you go about not being so intimate when you're trying to date? Because I feel like certain things could lead to other things, even just holding hands, hugging. So what are the appropriate levels, and what should and what shouldn't we do?
That's a real good question, because we have taught intimacy is touching, is sexual. And the Bible teaches that intimacy is spiritual and from the emotions and soul, not necessarily the physical. So when you're dating on a Christian aspect, intimacy comes from me knowing you and you knowing me. It can be compared to God. I don't have sex with God, but I'm real close. I don't kiss God, but I'm really very intimately close because of my spiritual and my mind are one with him. All right, so that's the intimacy you have. And so sometimes we want to affirm our relationships with God physically, with one another through physical aspects. Well, that should be held in restraint from to marriage. Now, this is PK, this is what I believe, that relationships should not last before marriage very long, less than a year. Because of that, you're trying the human biological responses. If you last, you keep on. Now you're going against what God has made for you to want to do. mate, all right? So if you're not serious, when we talk about dating, if you're not ready to get married, then you should have a different concept of when you go out there dating. You should just go out there with friendship, because I ain't ready to get married. So now I'm already stopping this tension that could be created by creating a relationship that I'm not ready for, which is marriage and all those things that you want, right? So it's like this, okay, I'm not ready to get married, but I want to go out with the opposite sex or whatever like that, right? So you just kind of do that, but you know that we're not going to keep seeing each other. That's not going to happen. To guard, okay, what could ultimately happen in this relationship. Am I kind of helping you a little bit? Because that was a real good question, How do you keep the fire down when you when you're meeting each other? You know what I'm saying? Because most of the time when you're dating somebody, it depends on what kind of date you're talking about, right? You're dating out of sexual tension. I mean, you're dating somebody you're attracted to, so that's sexual tension right there, right? So when you're going out, so I got to keep the sexual tension down because I'm really attracted to this person sensually, right? So now I'm fighting this thing like that. So you're not going out with this person because you want to be their friend. You're sensually attracted to them. So that's the danger of it all. And so you just gotta kind of keep your boundaries, keep your rules, like in my book, and keep going. But it ultimately is going to be very, very hard to have a Christian relationship 6-7 years walking in celibacy or something. You know what I'm saying? Like abstinence. It's very possible and doable, but it's just you're just going against biology.
So does that mean, like, intimacy-wise, it doesn't exist other than spiritually prior to marriage?
Right. No. Now come back to me so I can make sure I understand what you're saying.
So holding hands, kissing.
No.
That's out of the question.
No. Get my book. No. Because holding hands leads to hugging. Hugging leads to. So what's your intent when you're kissing? Just what's the origin of kissing? Kissing is what we call foreplay. Before the play, you know what I'm saying? So that's why you stay away from those things, because they're intimacy. They are awakening your sexuality. All right, and so you don't want to do those things if you want to make it, and if you want to do it right, okay. And so again, I understand you want to express how you feel about this person, but ultimately, you want to know. At the end of this, is this the person I'm going to marry? And in my book, what you do is when you start going out, I always say, I never want to mishandle this person. I never want to hurt this person. Never want to mislead this person. It'll make you slow up. You know, kind of like, okay, because if we ever go 2 months, whenever I get out of this, they're okay, I'm okay. There's no hard feelings, there's no misleading, none of that. Every step should be an affirmation of where we're going. So the first thing you should do when you start dating is, let's go for the friendship. I mean, you got girlfriend, when I say girlfriends, I mean girls who are your friends, you don't kiss them. See, once you start kissing your girlfriend, that becomes your girlfriend, you know what I'm saying? So if you have a friend who's a girl, like friends, right? Boy, you have boys, friends, right? You don't kiss them because you're that's my friend, right? When you start kissing that, then it becomes something else, right? So if you say the first thing we're going to aim for is friendship. If we can't go friendship, then I really don't want to get into it because we're going to be going down a road that ultimately I may end up hurting you, or you may be hurting me. So I know you didn't like that, and I mean in a good sense. I know a good sense, okay? But yeah, I mean but it's a wonderful, wonderful thing, man. Once you abstain from all that, and on your wedding night, you're just gonna be like, I get it. You know what I'm saying? I get all this, you know? And somebody said, well, I gotta know how they kiss and all that. The only reason you want to know how they kiss is because you kiss somebody else. And so you're comparing them. You know, anytime you say, I just need to know, if you've never kissed nobody, you don't need to know nothing, because you don't want to know nothing, because there's nothing to compare it to. So really, in your subconscious mind, whatever you want to do with them physically, is because you want to compare them to someone that you've had.
So just to piggyback off of that, it looks like we had a question that came on. So if you're dating someone for longer than 2 years, does that mean that the man does not want to marry her?
Good question. They would have to come in my office and.
So it depends.
No. You have to know. That's a real good question. I mean, you have to know, because there are some people who are divinely, very seldom. I wish I knew the percentages, right? Where kids met in high school and they ended up getting married. That's awesome, But if you're going 2 years, it depends on when you met. Like if you met right out of high school, you got things to do, right? So those things can happen, right? So I just got to know. Okay, what are they telling you? Okay, are we gonna get married? I mean, you know what I'm saying? After 2 years, they shouldn't be afraid of the marriage question. Okay, I mean, so, and in my book also, I don't believe in monogamy without the proposal of marriage. So I believe you should be cordially dating, meaning you can date, they can date, and because if they got you locked down for 2 years, like this sounds like, right? Then you're technically married. I mean, anytime you go monogamous, that's marriage. Nobody can get you, nobody can talk to you, you can't go out with nobody. Okay, why didn't we get married? So stay away from that. Now, you may choose not to or date other people, but leave the door open. And I almost, I'm gonna use the word Patrice, almost guarantee that you'll get married sooner than later. When a man knows it's open. Talk to me, Jeremy. I mean, if he knows you're open, you could go out with anybody you want anytime. That relationship he's gonna do something. You know what I'm saying? Because he's always gonna be worried about you could go out at any time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like they want, that's why people lock you down. They don't want you to go out with nobody. They don't want you to find nobody. Now, why would you want me to find anybody, go out with anybody, and you're not gonna commit to be with me the rest of your life? But we do those things, right? Don't make sense though. So that's why we ultimately get crushed in the end, man. And we have these regrets, like, man, golly, how many guys passed me by? I could have just went out on dates with them. I mean, come on, man, right? So I would tell you, lock them down, man. 2 years, they should know something. And again, I'm talking age now. I don't know if they're in college or what this age thing is, right? But if they're adults, 30, 31, 32, and they got jobs, there ain't no way you should be running around here 2 years in no monogamous relationship and you ain't getting married. No. I understand young kids in college and all that kind of stuff but if you 30, 25, 26, got a job, they got a job, ain't no reason y'all can't get married. Other than I ain't ready, well then okay then, I'll be dating over here. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? You can do that because you're not being sexual. You're not jumping in bed with people. You're just out there, getting to know people. That's what I'm saying. So it's very comfortable to do that. I hope I answered the question. Come and see me if you need me now. Come and see me. Because we got to shut this down 2 years dating somebody. They got to give me a reason what's going on here.
Can I get a clarification?
Yes. Oh, yeah, go.
Okay. So monogamy begins during the engagement process. Am I to
Start again. Say again.
Monogamy?
Yeah, okay.
That begins during the engagement process, correct?
Right.
Okay.
All right. Again, Patrice, what's this language they use? Because they always say on Facebook, what do they say? I'm in relationship. Okay, so that means they're monogamous, right? So I guess they say, I don't know if y'all use boyfriend, girlfriend terms. So I come and say, I want to be a boyfriend or girlfriend, right? So I'm locking you down. What's your response back to me? I want to lock you down, all right? Or I don't know what terms y'all use. I want to be boyfriend, girlfriend.
Like if you're asking me to be your girlfriend, where do you see this going? I usually ask that
do you?
way
That's
before
good.
time.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, you do ask the question. So what I say, I don't know, I just need to find out.
we're not talking. We wouldn't have even been boyfriend, girlfriend, or in the talking phase. Because I would like to know where you see us going. I mean, I don't want to
Okay,
seem like
good.
I jumped too fast, but I want to know so I'm not wasting my time.
Okay, so nobody's gonna lock you down unless they say they're gonna marry you.
Not saying that they have to say, hey, I see us getting married,
Well,
but
mistake. Because that's the only reason you lock. No.
No, of
What
course
other
that,
reasons
but-
I'm gonna lock you down?
there are lots, but what I'm saying is there are lots of men that will say, oh yeah, I see us getting married, and they're just lying. They're trying to stay
Okay, yeah, right.
and catch
Right,
you in
right.
something.
Right. They see, now I say, when you see it. You know what I'm saying? I see us getting married. When do you see it?
Right.
Okay? Again, you tell them now, I'm not pressuring you into marriage. I'm not doing all that. But what I'm saying is, I'm not in for you locking my life down from other people, which is a marriage the thing, okay? And you still don't know when. So don't lock me down, you know? So, but we can go out all the time, man. But you can go out when you want to go out, and I go out who I want to go out with. More than likely, you probably don't, because you want to put the interest in that person. You want to find out, right? But it's still open. So at the end, no one can say, man, you locked me down for 2 years. You did me wrong and all that kind of, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. You could have went out with whoever you wanted. You chose to do that. That's what I'm saying. If you want to do it in a biblical way, your intent when you get into these dating relationships, my goal is I don't want to hurt this person. And I don't want to say anything that would mislead them or guide them in the wrong direction of where this is going. All right? So, and most relationships, basically when we listen to the beginning, don't travel the same, on the same speed. One person's already ahead of the other. Like somebody's already getting ready to get married, this person's got to catch up and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes this person's ready to get married, this person never catches up. You know what I'm saying? Because they never come to that point. All right? And a lot of times it's innocent. Sometimes you can believe this is the one, and over time you find out it's not. I mean, and it really wasn't no setup. It's just innocent. So you try to protect yourself from all those things that could happen.
Question for the speeds and trajectories. If the person who is ahead of the game on the other person who's kind of catching up, how would you advise? Because I feel like part of the 2-year deal is that person who's ready slows their speed down so that the other person could catch up. Do you advise just being real and saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and you're not there, or do you just wait it out? What is your opinion on that?
Well, why are you got to go? Why are you dating? Okay, most people date not to get married, but to have a one-on-one relationship. A lot of people they don't want to get married. They want to have a one-on-one relationship in the culture. Okay, so ultimately, when you do that, like I said before, you end up doing what married people do. And when you do what married people do, you create a bind on the tides with people that after you're broken up, it's just a mess. All right, and so back to your question, why do you want to date? What's your intent? What's your intent to date? Why? I want your number. Okay. Why? Because I'm, we don't say this, right? But sexual tension, whatever. I mean, I'm attracted to you. Let's go out. Now, dating is the simple. If you look at the word dating, all it's saying is, two people go out to gather data about each other, to make an informed decision about what this relationship is going to be. So the first time I would go out with somebody, I said, listen, all we're going to do is we're going to gather, the second date. I said, okay, we must be trying to gather data. You're trying to find out, I'm trying to find out about you, you're trying to find out about me, to make an informed decision about what kind of relationship we're going to have. Where is this relationship going? Is it going to be a friendship? This is where we're going. We're going to go to friendship, or we're going to go to marriage, and guess what? We can do that within a year. We can know we can be friends within a year. We know we can go get married within a year. Otherwise, why are we doing this? So then we can just be friends. Oh, well, I don't see myself getting married another 10 years. Oh, we friends then. You know what I'm saying? You know, we friends. I mean, so we already solved this problem. You know, we friends. I'm looking to get married that's why I'm going out. I am dating to get married. You see what I'm saying? Ain't nothing wrong with that. See, a lot of ladies, they don't say it because they don't want to run nobody off. Because it sounds intimidating. Like, no, think about this. I'm dating to get married. And then you ask them, what are you dating for? You see what I'm saying? Why are you dating?
Hang up.
Right? Why? Okay, I'm dating to get married. I'm not saying we're going to, you know what I mean? I'm dating to, I know the purpose of dating. Because you don't know the purpose of something, you're going to mishandle the person. You're going to mishandle me. So this is my intention to get married. But if not, man, shoot, I go out with you all the time. We go to ball game, everything. It's cool, right? And so I'm all good. But if you don't understand their purpose of dating you, then they're going to mishandle you. All right, so you got to lock them down. Don't be afraid. Don't be so afraid that you lost a date. Listen, the more people you lose, probably the better it is. Because if somebody mean you well, they ain't going nowhere. If they mean you bad, they gone. If you just a piece of meat and you ain't gonna get the meat, they need to go. All right, so you have certain questions you ask if you want to protect yourself. You have certain questions you ask, you want to eliminate them. Or else you're gonna go down that road, you're gonna be ultimately gonna be hurt. Yeah.
I have a question to piggyback off that. What would be considered too fast in dating? Because I know, like in your situation, you said you met Lady D and you pretty much knew the first night. Mm-hmm. And I know in a lot of situations, people say, you know, when you know. What would be considered too fast in the dating process? Because I know, like
to dating to do what? Get married? Or
yes, sir. Dating to get married.
Man, listen. I believe in I believe in supernatural. You can see somebody. Now this is deep. You could know somebody, they know you, you get married the next day. Okay, let me tell you what. You say, oh, what? Because I know people know 2 years and they get married, get divorced. So it tells me time don't mean nothing. Confirmation, now we'll get spiritual, okay? Confirmation from heaven means everything to me. And if two people are locked in and they know that's God, y'all get me. Okay, the highest rated marriages that last are people who don't know each other. You know what they're called? Prearranged marriages. Look it up. Two people don't never know. The parents got them together, they get together, and they stay married in that culture. We spend a whole bunch of time getting to know people, marry them, and still divorce them. So it's a mindset. It's a confirmation. You know, like Jeremy's saying, you know that you know that you know. Now, to people say, you might, but if again, on the spiritual realm, if you walk in what I'm saying, he won't be the serial killer, you know, after you get married. You know, it won't be like that. You know what I'm saying? But to answer this question, if you talk about, basically what I'm saying, Jeremy, I don't deal with time. I don't deal with time. You know, they come in and say, we've known you 5 months. You know, we go through premarital kind of thing like that, you know, flush some things out. Cool. Because I've seen too many I've seen time don't make a difference. Anybody else?
So, well, yeah, I don't know if you guys had another question. Did you want to go, Lawrence?
I did have a question. I didn't know if you want to.
No, you go first, yeah.
It's a different question. So for those that are later in life and in the dating area, the dating pool, we'd seen our parents and then their parents get started a little earlier in life. Their early 20s, their teens, mid-20s or whatnot. And what would be, I guess, the encouraging words or somewhere to look, really, because a lot of the times you start to let certain things go. Some of those standards start to fall as they get older and they see the societal pressures or they see the married couples and like, man, that's what I want. People start to lose some of the walls that they had up. What would be some encouraging words or ways to kind of keep them going, if that is a good one? So what would you say to someone who's like, yeah, you know, I'm still single. I'm 30, I'm 40.
Okay.
And but I've seen my friends get married. I've
yeah,
seen,
yeah,
my
yeah.
folks got married.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you keep them encouraged or to not give up on that same day, if that makes sense?
Listen, I'm gonna give you the proverbial answer. Live in purpose. You know what I'm saying? Keep your eyes on God, right? But I get depressed for some of my people in the church when I see them. I say, Lord Jesus, help them, Lord, give them, because they're walking good. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so you say give them encouraging words. I mean, I get depressed for them, like, oh God, Lord. I mean, because they walking, they walking the walk out, and you know me like, man, Lord, why can't you fix these people up? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I hope I discourage people, but I'm just as discouraged as they are. Like, oh God, you know what? That's the mystery, man. That's the mystery of. It's just a mystery. I mean, why? I got two people in my mind, just good people, man, and where are they they mates at? You know, I mean, I can't answer you. I mean, I can just say, hey, walk in God. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Walk in your purpose, keep your life busy, and you'll happen upon that person will happen upon you. Does that make sense? I mean,
No, it does.
I mean, but yeah, I understand. Listen, we were not made biologically, sexually, to be virgins 35, 40. That's just not the body made up like that. They say the testosterone of a man is like 13 to 8. I mean, they say it's high. So evidently, if you do biologically, like in the Bible, we're supposed to be getting married 16, 17. That's when our heights are. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so can you imagine going to this thing called puberty and you're sexually awakening and all these things are moving and in our culture, they say you can't get married until you should get married to after college, which is 22, 23, right? And so you got to fight these urges and all kind of stuff. So our culture is not biblical friendly, with that. So when you're 30, 40, it's just, can you listen to this? Sex is an appetite, just like hunger, right? And the only way you can do away with the appetite is do what? You got to eat. So you have this sexual appetite, right? So the only way you can get rid of it is what? Have sex, all right? So you got to starve yourself from an appetite. That's very, very difficult, okay? And so you say, God, you gave it to us, and now we got to walk in this celibate road. And so that's why it's really best. It's harder for people who've had sex than people who've abstained from it. It's easier for a virgin because, the body is not used to something. Once you have had sex, now the appetite's there, all right? And so it's like when people in the church, their spouse die or they get divorced, well, their bodies are used to sexual appetites. They're used to, it's time, you know what I'm saying? It's time, and now it's all gone. So that's very, very difficult. And that's why you said a good point. And I'll call it the underground sexual frustrated Christians in the church. Because, they praise
Facebook group.
What'd you say?
That's a Facebook group.
Yeah, they're praising, praise God, praise God, praise God. But they got an underground church going on, you know what I'm saying? And so it's one of those things that you say and you move on, you keep praying for them. And always remember this. The Bible says he's able to keep us from falling and present us faultless. And that word fall means he's able to ultimately keep you from eternally falling. It doesn't mean that you won't fall as a Christian, but you won't ultimately fall. At the end, God's going to raise you up. I mean, you're going to be all right. So you haven't lost. So if you're in a sexual relationship, I would just say, get out of that. Redefine the relationship and get out of this whole monogamy thing, and start being friends and you'll be all right.
So to address the online question, the question is, how do I develop my discernment so I can see which man is the one God has made for me?
That's mystery, I mean, I hate to sound like that. You just, how do I know that God, that's the one? Right.
How do you develop, I guess, your spiritual discernment? The question is, how do I develop my discernment so that I know?
Oh, it's nothing you discern. I mean, it's nothing you develop. Unless you develop it by being close to God to discern all things, okay? It's not a discerning of people, it's a discernment of God. Not a discernment of people, it's a discernment by God. Make sense? It's not a discernment, I ain't gotta discern you, no. It's a discernment from God, all right? So you don't go, your job ain't go around, I'm gonna discern this person, I'm gonna discern this person, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna see if that's the right one, I'm discerning you. What you doing? I'm discerning you, no. It's the discernment that comes from God. God will tell you like, man, and you go like, why? I mean, you just know like, why? That comes from God. It won't come from you. So you can rest easy when you're going out. Like, you ain't gotta go out there discerning people. You ask questions and all that kind of stuff. They can eliminate people, right? It's not discernment, just questions eliminate people. Like, okay, if somebody says, the first love as a Christian, that you want someone to love you, the first love, because see, there's a romantic love that most Christians get married by, and that's why they get divorced. The first love that you want to make sure is agape love. You want to make sure that they love you with agape Christian brother, sister love. That's the power of the Christian faith, is that when you start dating, right, you don't, when he says, I love you, you're not impressed by that. You should say, is this agape love? Because without agape love, our romantic love is not complete. Because our romantic love, called human love, should be covered by heavenly love. Because human love is frail. It gets tired, it gets weary, and it's not tolerable, right? So I want to know, when you're dating somebody, you want to discern, are they loving you with Christ kind of love? Love one another as I love you. So you should say, oh, see, that used to be when I was growing up, that was the word, I love you, right? It wasn't agape either, I love you, right? They would, oh my God, they love you, right? And that's a catch-all, that's a fleshly love, which will fizzle out, okay? It's just made for mating. God's love is called eternal, right? So if I love you with agape love, then whenever you fail me with your human love, my agape covers it. My long-suffering, my gentleness, my kindness. That's what you want to know. Look, do you have that kind of love? So when you're looking at somebody who love, you want to discern, do they have agape love? Because I'm gonna be something for them, boy. They're gonna need some agape love with me. They don't need all that romantic love. We got that down, all right? Do you have agape love? So always discern. You go out with people, you say, listen, just watch, do they have agape love? Because agape love, no one's ever divorced when couples have agape love for each other. Never. They always get divorced by romantic love, because romantic love is human love. Human love comes by compatibility in chemicals. Okay? Chemicals are your emotions, how you feel about them. Compatibility is what you do together. All right? So when those two don't go together, guess what we call it? I think I'm falling out of love. Why? Because chemically you don't feel it no more. Compatibility, you don't get along no more. So that's human love. That's how we get together, human love. But guess what? Agape love steps in and says, you ain't going nowhere. No. We're going to work this thing out. My chemicals are not feeling you no more. We seem like we're growing apart. But agape say we're long-suffering and we're going to work this thing out. So don't never marry nobody on a romantic love. You marry them on a heavenly agape love. And that's what makes us different as Christians. But most Christians that come in my office to get married, they get married out of a cultural mindset of human love, which is not going to last.
Did you have a question, Jean Patrice?
I did. It was actually, I forgot it. Go on ahead.
Okay. I wasn't sure because you had put the mic up, so I want to make sure that if you had one that we addressed it. But this is a good one that came in online too. It says, how do you allow doors to open when you're hurting from a failed relationship with someone who you thought was the one?
Say it again.
How do you allow doors to open when you're hurting from a failed relationship with someone who you thought was the one? So how do you get back into dating, I guess, is the
Open
question.
yourself back up to the possibility. of dating.
Well, if they're still asking that question, then they don't need to be dating because they're still hurting. So I always say after a failed relationship, you take a year or more off, you know, and then learn, like I said before, then get my book. It'll teach you never get in that situation again. You'll never have a hurt. You will never, ever, ever, if you follow the instructions, you will never, no one will ever hurt you. The only way they're going to hurt you is you ultimately end up marrying the wrong person and it goes kaput, whatever, right? But no dating relationship is ever going to hurt you again if you follow the guidelines. See, so that person broke down guidelines, and usually it's probably was sexual, because anytime somebody's hurt, devastated, and all that kind of stuff, sex got involved, all right? They saw their life in the future with them, and that person now is not in their future, so they're tripping, right? I mean, I don't mean that, insensitive. So they're tripping on that because they broke all the rules that you don't do. So when you get these rules right, understand, listen, when you engage in someone, the most precious thing you have is your heart. And the Bible says, guard that heart with all costs, because that heart will change the direction of your life. Don't give your heart and emotions to people. No. The day you ultimately give your heart to somebody is when they say, I do at the altar. Then that's when they get your complete heart. They shouldn't have your complete heart until they say, I do. When you're coming down the aisle, they shouldn't even have your whole heart. Until they say, I do, then they got you. If you want to protect your heart, all right? And so that's what I would say to them. Don't date right now. Recoup. Forgive them. That releases them out your system. Then start rebuilding your life without them. And then you start engaging again, all right? And then you can engage when you're not comparing everybody to them, and every relationship stands alone. You should Patrice is going out with somebody, and that person starts saying something and says, they sound like that other person. And you start judging them based on that, right? Well, no, you're not healed, because now that person is going to pay for something that you had in your past. So until you're ready I'm a standalone person, and I ain't the other person's. And until you're able to do that, then you don't need to be trying to date anybody. On a serious note, whatever you're trying to do, right? We're not going out having fun. Again, it's all how you define this dating thing, all right? Ultimately, dating is defined as someone looking for marriage, and most of us not doing that. So when I'm saying dating, man, I'm talking about going out having fun. Let's go to Six Flags or whatever. I mean, take the pressure off this stuff. Let's go out to Six Flags. Let's go to this play. Let's go over here. Take the sexual tension out of it. We know we have tension, right? Let's take that out of this by doing things that's not sexual and have fun with each other. And don't put the pressure on anything. Just let it organically become whatever it's going to become.
I have a question. How do you break spiritual ties if you've been with someone before?
How do you break them?
Yes. Is there a way to break a spiritual
Oh, yeah,
tie?
if they're still tied. Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, it depends on, if they're still with you, it's because you haven't forgiven them. You got to forgive. Now, check this out. You have to forgive them whether they were right or you were right, or they were wrong, you were wrong. Either way, all right? If you broke up with them, you're still spiritually, even if you might break up with somebody, you're still tied to that person. So you have to forgive them, or ask them for forgiveness for even doing that to them. Forgiveness is, guess what? That's why Jesus said, forgiveness is the key, man. In anything, it's the most powerful thing in the world. And forgiveness means you release them. Whatever you've done to me, I'll release you. Like Jesus said on the cross, you did not know what you was doing. I'll release you, man, so I can go on. Can you imagine? That's what God did to us. When we go to God and we say, God, he said, man, I'll release that. That's how we have a relationship. He's not soul tied to my past with him. he only knows me in his present. All right, so soul ties is untied by releasing that person. No blame, no nothing. Ultimately, you say, I'm responsible for my own life. I'm the one who got into it. Whatever I allowed you to do, I allowed you to do it. If you tricked me, I allowed you to trick me. You know what I'm saying? If you played on me, you're empowering yourself when you take responsibility that says, I am the one that allowed all this. That's empowering. Because if you allowed all of it, guess what? You can change it all. But if you need that person to change you, you're in trouble. So you take full responsibility to empower yourself to take over. All right. If you don't, then you'll be looking for them. Tell me you're sorry. Tell me like you need something from them. Tell me you're sorry. Tell me you know whatever. That means you need something from them. No, I don't need nothing from you, because whatever you did to me, I allowed you. Unless if they raped you or something. You know what I'm saying? I allowed whatever you did. You play with my mind. You suckered me into thinking you love me. I let you do all that to me. I let you do that. So I take full responsibility. You'd be surprised how empowering that is when you take full responsibility.
Next question that came in is, where should I go to meet men?
Where? HEB. Everywhere, anywhere, everywhere and anywhere. I wouldn't try to meet no man, no club though. I mean, even though I met my wife in a club, that was just, we fell forward, man. That was all God, man. We didn't do nothing right. No, really. I mean, we didn't do nothing right. I mean, we wasn't saved anyway. We just fell forward. But that's a good, do life. Wherever your life takes you. Now that's the thing, Patrice and all y'all go on cruises, go some places, get outside the church. Parks, zoo, a lot of things. Now you're gonna be surprised. Y'all gonna be surprised at this now. I used to be against it. Now watch this stuff now. I used to be against this whole dating thing, services, what do we call them? What do we call them things online?
Dating apps?
Right, now it depends on which one, the Christian thing you come, right? But I know two people in our church, they happily married that did that thing. I used to be real spiritual, like, why you on that thing? Why you on that thing? Lord Jesus, you're gonna call them mass murderers or something like, but again, I'm not advocating that, right? But if you just look into, depends on what's the setup for. Friendships, again, what are you aiming for? What do you but I've seen those things work, okay? And so it's just another avenue. But you guess what? Guess what? You're not going to meet somebody unless it's very ironic, sitting in your house. That you're not going to meet nobody. To me, that's unless it's the plumber coming.
The maintenance guy.
Yeah, the maintenance guy. And then God just came, did that, right? But I would get out, do a life, man.
Well, you hit two questions in one. Someone else was asking, what are your thoughts on using dating apps? So,
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now again, I'm not saying everybody get on there. Okay, thank you, Pastor. No, you gotta be very careful. I'm not familiar with those things. So maybe I shouldn't even be I don't know if I'm endorsing. What I'm saying is I've seen two couples use those things, and they came out really good. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So I've seen it work. You know what I'm saying?
So it sounds like don't just use dating apps. You're saying you can't just be at home, but it's like live life.
Well, what happened was, they brought because I always heard negative. You get on there and you get these people got these pictures, they really at that person, all that.
And that's true.
Right, all that, it's a trap too now. So I'm saying it's very, I don't want to be contradicting myself. What I'm saying is this, I've seen it work. But then there's the dangers of it all, So I shouldn't even brought it up, I apologize. Because I don't know the nuances of it. But I know it worked. It worked, all right? There are genuine people on there who are really Christians, who really want another Christian. There are people out there like that, but I would just say do your due diligence, be very, very careful when you're doing that stuff. Again, what do you want? What are you trying to find this date? Why are you trying to date? What do you want to do? If you ain't ready to get married, then, man, like I don't hope I embarrass y'all, right? Patrice and Jeremy can go out and bowl, and there ain't no tension. Like, you know what I'm saying? There ain't no, you know what I mean? If you just want to do that, but if you talk about, I'm looking to get married, then that's a whole nother ball game. If I hope I'm making sense, right? This dating thing, what do you want out of it? Okay? If you want to get married, then that's a whole other level of when you're going out with someone. And then after a while, if you keep going out with somebody and you get discouraged because, man, I thought that was the one. If that's your, don't have that mentality. Every time you go out with somebody, hope that's the one, hope that's the one. No. Just go out, go through what it says, gather the data so you can make an informed decision and make a choice. If not, move on.
I had just a quick question that came to mind a little bit earlier, but, you know, if people know that, hey, I do want to get married to you, but the issue is, you know, the time because they don't have the money to have the wedding that they want. What do you say in that case?
Oh, man, weddings break people, man. I mean, weddings are supposed to be, in tradition, right, a representation of the wealth of the family. That's where the whole money thing go, right? And so it's you know, don't break yourself over a wedding. And you can have like one of the financial, I ain't saying cheap, but what do you call them? A financial
being more frugal.
Is destination. You know, everybody who want to come go down there, and they set it up for you, man. You ain't got to worry. You ain't got to worry about all that, you know. But no, if people want to get married, man, have 50. Quit trying to impress people. Where you at? I think one more year. I hope my wife don't watch this because I can't forget. I mean, I have 40 years, right? And so I had one ring, right? And so 40 years later, I'm upgraded, right? But I'm giving her something I couldn't get back then. So when you get your 20-year wedding anniversary, and it's called, you know, renewals, you have you a big one if you want. You know what I mean? To celebrate, okay? So wherever you are, if you got $20,000 job, they got a $20,000 job, then you have a $20,000 wedding. So what? Quit trying to impress people, man. All right, no. Buy the ring that they can afford and that you can afford. If it's $500, so what? I mean, quit this stuff, man. I mean, if you want to get married and you guys want to make it work, and it's a God-ordained thing, it ain't about money, man. And if people worry about what you're wedding, they should all come and pitch in and help you have a good big wedding if they want it. All right? Does that answer your question? Yeah. So yeah, yes. People don't. I got to save up for my wedding. Okay. These people, listen. If you pay them $70,000 out your pocket, you can go buy a house. Well, that's crazy. You can go buy a house. I mean, you're gonna have a one-day event. It's gonna cost you $70,000. You can put that on a house. See, we out of balance. Unless you David Robinson, you can, you know, and $70,000 is like $7. Yeah, okay, yeah, cool. But if you put something on there where it don't make sense. So, and if people come and judging your wedding, you need to invite them anyway. I don't know how I got there. I mean, everybody there should be loving on you. You know what I mean? Like, okay. And if you don't like what they like, then buy them the cake. Buy whatever you don't like. I tell people, whatever you don't like about my wedding, give me the money to get it. If not, shut up. You know, sit down. You know, and see me in 10 years when my wedding gonna be big time. Whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. It makes sense?
Yes.
All right. So don't be waiting on, I gotta get all this money. No, you're trying to wait enough money to impress people. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. Because when you get married, the most impressive thing to me is not your wedding, it's your marriage. All right, so I want to see your marriage last. I don't care about your wedding day.
Did you guys have any lingering questions for PK or anything you wanted him to clarify?
I had one more question. As far as the book is concerned, obviously every word is going to matter. Is there a section or a portion that you say to turn off the TV, turn off the radio, put the phone on Do Not Disturb, read and read again? Is there a section that you're just like, this is powerful, that you want someone to
Chapter
really?
Chapter 5.
All right, okay.
Chapter 5. And I hate to bring it up because every time you talk about singles, you bring up sex, but it's called sexual purity. But it's the why. It's the why. It's not the, don't we have sex? No, chapter 5 talks about the why. Why? What are you doing to yourself? Every time you do that to yourself, what are you doing? All right? It's a very, very, and if you read it and you start understanding the biological aspects of what is transpiring, oh man, you're like, oh, okay, that's just the why, and really, I'm doing this to myself. I didn't know that, and so I think that's the most important thing. Besides chapter 4, which gives you the dating rules. You need rules, okay? How to protect yourself, and that's not only to protect you, it's to protect the person you're dating. All right, that you have a sincere heart that when I'm going out, I don't want to hurt this person, and neither do I want that person to hurt me. And so that's the most, because most of us, like you said, I think Patrice said earlier, most of us, our parents didn't sit us down because they wouldn't sit down of how to date. And so what we have is a culture driven by our sexual tension. They look good, I look good, ultimately we have sex together. That's where it's going. Come on, tell the truth. Two people are going out because they're sexually having tension with each other. So ultimately they're going to see how long it takes to get to the ultimate place they want to go, which is sex. That's all it is. Then if they have good sex, then they say, okay, let's go monogamy. Now you got sex, marriage, and then they say the word love. So now you got sex, love, and monogamy before marriage. So why marry you? Because you give me everything that marriage has. No. You don't want to do that. If you want to have a healthy relationship, you don't want to get involved in that.
So that's chapters 4 and 5.
Yes,
Pastor
4 and
King's book,
5.
Dateology.
4 and 5. They hot. It's hot.
The whole book.
Hot. Oh, no, not chapter 9. Now, chapter 9 is about everlasting love. What real? I talked a little bit about that, right? What do you really want them to hear? You don't want to hear, I love you. You want another type of love. That's what you're looking for, and that's going to help you. All right. It's chapter 9 is you want everlasting love, because most of us have been in love. No, first of all, we call ourselves falling in love, which means that's chemicals, because we don't know how we got there. Chemically, we get into something before we even think about it. Then we're being in love. That means everything's going good. And then we fall out of love, right? So I tell people all the time, Jeremy come in my office with his little pretty girlfriend. He said, Pastor, we going to get married. And I say, Jeremy, why? First thing he's going to say is what? We love one another. I said, well, Jeremy, have you ever told somebody you love them and felt out love? Yes, sir. So how do I know this love going to last through a whole marriage? Because being in love means there's limitations because you fell out of love. So people get married based upon love, which does not mean it's everlasting love. So they don't even know what everlasting love is. Chapter 9, you got to read chapter 9 because it tells you what kind of love you need. It's not the romantic human love. It's the heavenly love. That's what you got to look for. Is this person capable of loving me like Christ? If he's not, I'm not marrying him.
So read the whole book.
Yeah. Yes, man, yeah.
But I think that's all that we had in terms of our questions online.
I hope I helped
and
a little
in
bit.
person right now.
I hope I helped a little bit.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Well, for me, I'm speaking for
Right.
myself.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
I'm sure if I was enlightened, there's many more people. So with that being said, be sure to share so that there's definitely people out there that need to hear this, or, if someone's struggling with one particular thing that we talked about today, be sure to tell them to check it out. It's on Facebook and YouTube, depending on which one you're watching it on now, but there's 2 different forums they can look at it at. But I want to thank our panelists for being here, being brave enough to ask questions, and PK for sharing your wisdom and insight.
Hey, listen, as a pastor, I am proud of you, Jeremy, guys. You guys, I'm proud of you with your answers and hang in there, because you're living you're living countercultural. So there ain't nobody out there encouraging y'all to do what y'all do. So you stick close to those who affirm you. And but at the end, I think somebody said in the first session, at the end, it all pays off. It's like your wedding night. It's like I got it in the book. Okay, in the book it says this: you write a letter, okay, Patrice, to the person it's a faith letter. It's called faith letter. So I said, you write a letter and you tell this person, on this day, I'm keeping myself. It's a love letter to them. And then at that night, you open and say, you give that to them. It says, you're the person that I wrote this letter to. So now you're being faithful to a person you haven't met yet, but you wrote a letter to them. And somebody did that at our church. It was powerful. They gave the letter to them and said, this is the letter I wrote about you before I met you. And I lived this letter out for you. So, again, it's a powerful thing. But so that day is going to be a wonderful, wonderful day for you.
That's good. If any of this you're mulling it over and you have questions later, don't forget there's Ask PK. If you go to the Now Word page online, submit those questions. He'll always address it at another time. So if there's anything that is coming to light later, be sure to keep asking those questions. Thank you guys again so much for being here. Thank you guys for tuning online. Be sure keep asking those questions. Ask any of the couples from the previous panel, and we'll see you guys on Sunday.
God bless. Thank you.